Welcome back to the Fantasy Rugby Draft podcast. Thanks for downloading and listening. I'm Bruce Wilkinson, and joining me in the booth, we have another special guest, Reg Roberts from Green and Gold Rugby. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, Bruce. How are you going, mate?
I'm okay. You cooking over there?
I am quite literally cooking. It's the midst of this 40-degree weekend here in Brizzo, and while the others are out there in the heat of the tens, I'm trying to find some air conditioning to watch it.
It's a bit like that, mate. I wonder how much they drop in a match, how much weight.
Oh, mate. I remember there's a story of James Hall playing a Super Rugby trial, a few years ago now, but it was a February. Similar time, I guess, a couple of weeks later, but he dropped 7 kilos in a game.
Goodness gracious, is that right?
Ridiculous.
That'll get your Christmas turkey off.
Exactly.
So we've got Reg on because we wanted to go around and have a look at the Aussie Super Rugby Squads, and he's been a great source of player news and team news up till now. He's a keen watcher of the NRC, so he helps us out greatly there. So much appreciated, Reg.
All good. Looking forward to it.
We're going to touch on a few other bits and pieces at the end as well if we get a little bit of time. Again, there hasn't been a hell of a lot of updates since we last spoke. There's been the odd pre-season game since we had the last podcast with Rich Freeman. Incidentally, if you haven't listened to that yet, go and have a listen to that because he pulled out some really interesting names from some Wolves players. Really, really worth the value to go and actually have a look at that. Use it for draft day. A reminder about our Refer a Friend competition as well. So if you invite a mate and he joins for the first time Fantasy Rugby Draft, you go into the draw to win a Super Rugby jersey, this year's Super Rugby jersey. Reg, should I even ask which one you'd plump for?
We are Queensland, we are Reg, mate.
Exactly. What's their erase strip like? Is it a white one?
Mate, it's black. No, it's black.
Hello.
So
that could be the go.
Yeah, no, they've got a very decent black and red one. The ones I've got at the tens is white with a bit of red dots, but the away kick is black. It's very cool.
It's interesting. I've always wondered why Sherpas and things like that wear black in the desert. Is that kind of the same thing as well? The same theory?
I don't know, mate. I think they just don't expect to wear it anywhere. Who do we conflict with a red jersey?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Good one. Also, just a quick reminder, we'll try and beat it into most of the managers, is just to check out the Fantasy Rugby Draft playoffs, especially Game Week 16, because Sanzar, in all its wisdom, has decided to put buys very late in the competition. So just keep an eye on that. Right, let's bounce into the squads. I'll probably start with your favourites there, Reg, the Waratahs.
Let's do it.
As we kind of, most managers knows, we're looking at outside backs, we're looking at midfielders, looking at fly halves. Shall we start with probably the most important player for Fantasy Rugby Draft managers, Israel Folau? What do you think? Is he going to be 13, 15? What do you reckon?
No, mate, I think they'll keep him 13. I think consistency, he did well last year there for the Tars. They want to get his hands on the ball as much as possible. I think there's still a bit of uncertainty as to that centre combination as a whole, but I think 13 and Izzy is the solution there, particularly because I think there's a little bit of confidence in Andrew Kellaway at the back there now after the way he finished the season last year. He's still a young lad, but he's showed a bit of maturity back there. A few, wobbly bits early in the season, but I think he finished the season strongly. He ended up touring with the Wallabies as part of this sort of a support or academy system. So he had a good season as well. But Izzy's the man, and they'll have him at 13 and probably stepping into playmaker as well at some stage.
Yeah, it might be a bit more balanced having Callaway back there, and you're dead on. That's exactly what I saw Callaway last year as well. A bit shaky to start with. Looked like maybe the stage was a little big for him, but then he just kind of comfortably got into it. A couple of games under his belt, got a few run backs, and then he looked really, really good towards the end. Really, really good.
And the thing about Callaway, and I'm a believer that there are natural try scorers, guys who they pop up in the right position, they finish tries, and Callaway is one of those. He's always in the right position and he scores tries. I think he'll score a few this year for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned that with Folau as well. So a little bit of uncertainty around his centre partner as 12. So with Kirtley gone to Wasps, is it Rob Horn thinking of going in there? Is it David Horwitz, or are we looking at Simone, or is he a 13?
Yeah, no, I think Simone's probably a 12, and Simone's a lot of people's tip. So there's Ure Simone, who you Kiwis may know better than many because he sort of came through your system, came over here and played for the South Sydney Rabbitohs before wanting to go all out in rugby and sort of made his way through the Shoot Shield. He was Shoot Shield, which is a Sydney Club Rugby Player of the Year last year. He was the NRC Player of the Year, and he was outstanding and has secured a Waratah. I still think it's like an EPS, so an academy contract, but there's many people who think he'll start at 12. So I'm not sure. I've got a feeling they'll still stick with Horn because he's such a known quantity for them.
Okay.
but again, it's this flow through. It's then who plays on the wing, which is always that secondary question. Horn's a chance out there, but I've got a feeling they might start at Horn, but Simone might end up there towards the end of the year.
Yeah, it's an interesting one for fantasy rugby draft. So Horn's listed as an outside back and playing in midfield. That usually is a little bit of a death knell.
Yep.
In terms of scoring points, that we usually prefer to see it the other way around.
Yep.
And I wonder if potentially Simone is that pick if you just wanted to have a little bit of a wild card at the end of your draft, because I don't think it'll be on many people's radars. Certainly not people outside of Australia per se that wouldn't have watched the NRC. We don't get a hell of a lot of coverage over here. You have to be pretty dedicated to watch that.
Yeah, so he's a line breaker. He's an offloader. He missed a few tackles though, so just be wary of that. But he's a good player, and he's produced some good preseason form already. Wasn't in the tens at all, but I know his trial match he did some good things as well. Missed
a few tackles, you say. Fits him perfectly for the Waratahs backline.
Yeah, exactly. Most Aussie backlines at the moment. So yeah.
Harsh. Let's look a little bit wider. You've mentioned there as well the wingers. We've kind of gone. Mossman and I have a little bit of a battle about this. I think he kind of was sunny side up with Tekeli Naiyaravoro. I was a little bit sunny side down, and after watching the tens, are we even sure he's going to be playing in the back line?
Oh, mate, he packed a few, but mate, I am your way as well, particularly after the tens. Sunny side down on Naiyaravoro. He was very average, I thought.
Wasn't he?
Like, that would seem a level of competition made from no back rowers, one line of defence to get through, and he should get through it. But he was getting tackled by the Wild Knights, the Japanese club, and so on. But without discounting them, he wasn't making an impact on the game, which is a concern. And I know he's a big lad, but he didn't look particularly fit, and even just his ball skills. I've got some serious questions on that. I would have thought he'd be a chance to start, but I'm second guessing myself at the moment.
It's one of those players you're never really sure if it's fitness or he just doesn't have that spark. Doesn't have that drive that you see in some players' eyes just to get over that man. A really good example was against the Rebels, I think it might have been, and he's kind of jogging down the sideline, fairly in the clear, and Naivalu came across and completely cleaned him up. And one of the biggest hits you'll see all day. It was a cracker.
Yeah.
And he probably got about 20 on him.
Yeah, I think Tekeli was surprised by that he got tackled on that one.
Yeah. At least... Go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, so the other wing I think is definitely got to be Reece Robinson. So, who's been at the Tars a couple of years now, has had... So his rugby education, having come from rugby league, is almost there. He's had a really good NRC, played a bit of fullback, so he's developing a bit of an understanding of the game. Really good speed, good skills. Just needs to not rely on the chip and chase so much. But I think Robinson will be one winger. It's just that other wing, and I guess the other name that might be a bit of a chance as a roughie for you is that Cameron Clark, who was the people may know as Greg Clark's son. He was a sevens, so one of our go-to sevens players for the last few years. So he's made the switch back to 15s, played the NRC last year. He's sort of fullback wing. He might be a rough chance for that wing spot too, and sort of provide them that extra fullback, interchanging with Callaway a bit.
Yeah, Reece Robinson's a good one. We haven't ranked him particularly high, but we've seen the error of our ways. We haven't moved him yet, but certainly I think he's probably the first one they're going to write down in that winger position. And I think the Waratahs will go all right. They're always going to be there and thereabouts, and it's a pretty exciting wing, and anyone that can play outside Izzy is going to have value.
Yeah, indeed, absolutely.
What about the forwards? So TPM gone to the Force?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the Waratahs weren't banking on him anyway. He was off to England last year, and then that fell through with an injury contract, as you can sort of expect with TPN. He has a few injuries, so he, I think, with the ARU sort of essentially taking over the Force, they negotiated a contract with him over there. So great pickup for the Force. What does it mean for the Waratahs? They've actually got some pretty handy depth at hooker. So Tolu Lasu played a few tests last year. Yep, very, very mobile player. Probably got a bit of a discipline issue. Will pull a few cards this year without a doubt and give away a few penalties. But is very handy around the field. Can also double in the front rows, so plays a bit of loose head prop as well. Mm-hmm. Under him, two other very mobile hookers. So Hugh Roach, who's been in the system for a little while, and Damien Fitzpatrick. And Fitzy was part of the Waratahs a few years ago, was a sort of this young boom hooker. Went overseas again. I think he played in France a little bit and has just come back this year. As they do, a lot more mature, still very mobile, but good leadership. So between him and Roach, I think Fitzpatrick might just have the legs above Roach to be that backup hooker. So that'll be interesting.
So if you had at one end of the spectrum set piece dominance and the other end of the spectrum loves to run with the ball, which way would you lean for the Waratahs front row?
I think they're ball runners, and I think their tight five is really, in fact their pack are ball runners. I don't think the set piece will be strong.
Right.
Their line-out will be an issue. Latu ain't a great thrower, but much in the Tatafu mould, I guess, but they don't have lock depth. They've somewhat they've got Dean Mumm there. I don't know whether could end up being at lock or perhaps number 6, but they've got other players I'll talk about in a second. But they've signed Dave McDouling, who was at the Sharks last year, who's a very good lock.
Canterbury, wasn't he, for the Mitre?
Yeah, exactly. And then he went to the Sharks, but then there's Will Skelton as well. So McDouling's a really good line-out forward, but Skelton's obviously not. So, they're ball runners. McDouling's a set-piece boy, but the rest of them are ball runners. Because you go to the back row, there's you guys probably picked up on him, Jack Dempsey, who's a young sort of probably 6, really good ball runner. He'll make a lot of metres this year. He'll score a few tries. It's just whether he keeps that 6 jersey ahead of Dean Mumm. We'll have to see. Because if they take Dean Mumm into the starting lock position ahead of Dave McDouling, I just think it really weakens that line out and even the scrum. So, it's a big call they have to make there.
It's pretty mobile loose forward if you've got Hooper and Dempsey, and then I assume they're going to have Holloway at number 8. Is he fit?
Yeah, I think he'll make it back for the season start, mate. And yeah, you're right. That makes it a very mobile. They'll be pushing each other out of the way as to who can run out further wide. So, but it's there's a lot of ball running in that pack. In fact, all of them. Kepu and the other one is up front. I guess Tom Robinson, who again made his Wallaby debut last year. Does he start? He's a tight head. Kepu's a tight head. They might see Paddy Ryan, who's traditionally a tight head. He'll probably have to move to loose head. So a few questions to be had there as well.
Interesting. Nice. Yeah, so, Holloway was listed as a lock last year, but he is actually listed as a loose forward this year. I still think there's value in him when you can score a hat-trick.
Yep, exactly right.
I'll take that, whatever position he plays in.
Yep, indeed.
Anything more for the Waratahs?
No, I think that's a harder. I think, from the bench, if you want a wild card, Ned Hannigan might be one to lock. Yeah, I think he's a sort of a lock, bit of a back rower. We call him a nopser, because he's a bit in between, but, he's a free running lock. He's pretty good in the air from the lineouts too. Might be a year or two away, but I reckon we'll see him from the bench. He might be worth a squad member.
Okay, nice. All right. And let's switch over to the team that they beat handily in the pre-season, the Brumbies. A bit of flux in the Brumbies. There's a lot of movement and players going out and shifting. But then when I looked at that pre-season team, it was still a pretty strong team. It was. I thought, gee, that was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, they've got a very handy pack, probably really handy tight five, and then they can put on the field at least. God, maybe outside the halves. Oh gosh, it's hard. Yeah, I think they'll struggle, to be honest, the Brumbies.
So do I.
I just think it's key players and key positions they've lost. And, Pocock and Moore are 2 massive losses from a leadership perspective. Poor old Christian Lealiafano, who's, recovering, from leukemia, and his recovery is still going, and I wouldn't expect him to play at all this year. But he's been named as a co-captain of the squad just because of what he provides off the field. But we're not going to see him. And now you add to that the Pumas halfback, Cabelli, is now going to miss, a fair few weeks as well. So, yeah, it's a big struggle for the Brumbies to start the season with any sort of momentum.
Yeah, was it a patella or something in the pre-season? Yeah, terrible
exactly.
Injury, terrible. Okay, let's kind of hone in a little bit on one of the positions you said were a little bit weaker. So who do you think might get that fly half position is the first question. And then I guess the second one is, do you think they will be goal kicking as well?
Yeah, I think the only option is whoever plays 10 kicks for goals. So the only really options are young Nick Hust, who's the sort of South African via the Force, who's got some ability, but I think he's a fair way off being a starting 10. And their new recruit from your way,
Wharanui Hawara.
Yeah, that's it, Hawara. So I think Larkham sort of pointed him out early in the pre-season, saying that he's got they're excited by his potential. So I think you'll find he will start at 10. And I I haven't seen him play. I assume he kicks okay?
Yeah, he does. He's about 83-84%, I think, last year in the Mitre 10.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's pretty
That'll be important. So I think that'll get him over the line. I think, he seems a more assured player. Larkham's more impressed, has been impressed by him, and I just think Eustace a little bit loose to start just now, particularly when you consider we won't have Cabelli inside him to provide that maturity.
So is that going to be Joe Powell? Is that the guy that's next line?
I think Joe Powell will be the starter. Again, someone who's on the sort of outskirts of the Wallaby squad last year.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, exactly. It helps when your provincial coach is also the Wallaby assistant coach. So, but yeah, busy little player, a bit of skill about him. But again, that was probably a fortunate selection last year. He's a good player, but he'll have a big challenge to get that Brumby backline clicking.
What about the other side of Haro? So Godwin, what do we kind of talk about? So do we expect the end of the season Godwin what he had, or the last 2 seasons of the Force Godwin?
Well, look, let's give him the clean slate that he wanted. He moved from the Force to the Brumbies for the opportunity to start afresh, for the opportunity to be coached by Steve Larkham. Yep. He coincidentally snagged a Wallaby jersey out of it and made his test debut in a very good performance against France. Looked pretty good, so they will be reliant. So he'll definitely start at 12 with the Brumbies and be a fairly hard running combination with Tavita Kurandrani. So let's hope Godwin lives up to his potential. He struggled to show it season long for a little while now, and that's probably the big thing that's keeping him out for legitimate high contention.
Aidan Toa copped quite a bit of flack on this podcast for the first half of the last season. Looked a little bit rattled, more so than Callaway did. Just looked a little bit shaky, real lack of confidence. Came on a little bit towards the end, I got to say. He started to kind of believe in his own pace and his own ability to beat a man, and he was doing all right for a fantasy rugby draft perspective. I know you've always thought that if he could have a good run of games and a bit of confidence in him, he could be a decent player. What did you think of him this season?
Yeah, look, I know he caused a lot of angst amongst the Brumby fans too. I think he had a fairly decent turnover stat, but at the same time, I think he was up there with the try assists. I think he created a few tries himself. Look, he's a super talented player. He probably is on the looser side of things. Last year he did have a disrupted lead into the tournament. He is injury prone, and I know he didn't have much of a pre-season. He managed to have a pretty good season, from an injury perspective last year. And this year I think he's had a pretty full pre-season as well. He's kind of seen as that more senior player now. I know he captained them in a couple of tens games and has a bit of the leadership potential around him. So, look, as a fan, I'm hoping he steps up this year, but he just needs that consistency to that game and probably just the tightness around those little minor mistakes that he leads to towards the end.
Yeah, I think that part of it kind of should be, part of his form early on should be kind of laid squarely at Larkham's door, because I think he was looking for a direct replacement for Jesse Mogg, and that person that could have that long raking kick straight off the kick-off or be able to put him in position, and he just wasn't that player. He shins a lot, and he didn't, he slices quite a few more than he does. I don't think he necessarily is this great punter of the ball, but as soon as they got him out of that position and he didn't have that shaky start, like it's opening batsman, once you get a ball in the middle of the bat, which never happened in my lifetime, it actually, you get a little bit of confidence and you feel as though you're seeing it a bit better. It's the same thing if you in a rugby field. If you get the first tackle in, if you get the first kick in, then you're seeing the match a lot better. And I just wondered if he was thrust into a role trying to do a like for like with Jesse Mogg.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call. I think they'll use him more of a playmaker this year as well, so we'll see how that plays out.
And so on the other wing, so I assume Henry Spate's going to take one wing. Is Jimmy D going to be on the other? But between him and Wong, I guess, Dargaville provides that sort of what you're getting type solution, doesn't he? He's a really good finisher. He's a really solid player, but Nigel Wong is back and he's, I think they like his size and a bit of what he creates with the offload, but Dargaville's your percentage call. That's true. I think that's probably fair, yeah. And so you mentioned before you think it's going to be a fairly long season with those exits from the Brumbies. Is that your view?
Yeah, I think so. Look, leadership is such a critical, component of that team. They're, losing Moore, the Wallaby captain, losing Pocock, who probably should have been the Wallaby captain. They're just such, esteemed players and, decent replacement. Say Fingers down there now. I'd suggest he'll start straight into the hooking role. He's actually had a pretty decent 10. Still gives away a few penalties, but he's looked good. Chris Alcock will probably start at 7 for the Brumbies. I know he makes plenty of tackles and gets some turnovers, but name's similar, but he's no David Pocock, so he's he'll give us all, but it's a massive gap.
Yeah, I think so. So any more from the Brumbies?
Look, just a couple of guys from the bench. So they've got some good depth at lock. They've got Rory Arnold, who had a really good breakout year for the Wallabies. Sam Carter's been named captain. So those two will be the starting locks. But I'm a big fan of Tom Staniforth, who'll probably come from the bench and may take the 6th spot if they need to rest Vardy at any stage. He's a 2 metre tall, good runner, good offloader, makes an impact. And the other one to watch is Lolo Fakiasilia, who's a signing from the Reds, who's a big, rangy, hard-hitting back rower. Again, whether he quite fits that team, he may snag the number 8 spot from Jared Butler. We'll have to see, but he has a good impact on the game too.
They like their number 8s, but that was Butler. Is that the last guy?
Exactly right, mate. Exactly right. They're still looking for a replacement for him. Butler's probably the first choice at the moment, but I think they signed Fakiasilia exactly for that replacement.
Okay, interesting. Good call. Let's go over to the Force. So they had a few signings and a few players coming back from fitness. They're actually a pretty handy 10s team. I think they won the one in South Africa last year, didn't they?
Yeah, in Mauritius it was.
Was it Mauritius, was it?
Yeah, exactly. Right. But they did, and it was a mixed team. It was a second string team with a few good players. So, up until this weekend they were the reigning world champions in 10s.
That's good stuff. Jonah Lance, I saw him trotting around for the Force as well, and he had his arm fairly heavily bandaged, but it looks like he's back from that break.
Yeah, that was a pretty key return for them because he's critical to them. A decent number 10. Otherwise, you're looking at Peter Grant, the sort of journeyman South African. So Lance is their goal kicker. He missed a few in the trial. He played a trial. I know he missed a few kick-wise, but he's generally pretty reliable there. But he's also their go-to man. Doesn't miss a tackle. Sets up the play well. Likes to take the line on as well. So he's a big player for the Force there.
Yeah, he seems to be one of those fly halves that can offer you a little bit from a fantasy rugby draft perspective. And as you say, Peter Grant's the alternative. Luke Burton, I think they had even Ian Pryor was tucking in at 10 at one point there as well.
Yep.
So Lance is it's just a little bit of class. And he offers that running into the line, and you've got quite a decent back line outside of you. There's a couple of key players in there, so I think if he can and he was really good at the start of last season before his injuries that he had. He was actually putting up fantasy rugby draft points as well, and he became quite a steal at that position as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. He's a quality player, and I reckon he'll be a good pickup.
So who's going to go outside him though? So Luke Godwin was there, 12 and 13. I see a lot of this Chance Penny fellow. Yeah, are we going to see much of him?
Yeah, I think we will. So the other loss is, you're right, Godwin, but then they let Benny Tapawai go, which is a curious one, but I think it was just one of those ones. He obviously didn't want to be there, so he's overseas now, and I think he's playing pretty well. So I think it'll mean Billy Meeks will start at 12, who was, sort of probably picked to start at 13 outside taps, but he'll start at 12. He's a decent runner, big hitter, likes the offload. I think Curtis Rona, who's a league convert, I think he was a Bulldog, prolific try scorer. He'll probably start at 13. Now he's looked very good in the 10s so far. Scored some really good tries. So, but yeah, you're right. Chance Penny, who's another league recruit. He was played in the Force, the West Australian rugby system before going to league. So he's come home and he's another, sort of very, very dangerous player out there in the wing with a bit of speed. So, and they'll link up with, as you'd expect, Hallett Petty at fullback and Luke Morahan on the other wing.
Okay, so we think it's going to be Meeks, what was it? Rona, and then Penny, Moran, DHP. Okay.
Yeah. That's where I think it's going to go.
Masawera, he was around at some point.
Yeah, he was. I don't think, and I think actually Marcel Bracky is still probably held a little bit higher than him. Then they've got Robbie Coleman that's signed from the Force. So, I think there's a few players. Masawera, sort of was in the team early, then he got benched and then sort of dropped out of the squad. He only had a few minutes in the 10, so, he's a bit dangerous. I think they seem a bit loose still.
Yeah, actually, we remember him from last season. As soon as you put trust in him, he puts up 3-0 or minus points in it pretty quickly. That's
exactly
the life of a fantasy rugby draft manager with Masarewa. How about the front row now? So TPN coming in. Heath Testman's still there, though, right?
Yeah, and Heath Testman's club captain, so club co-captain with Benny McCalman. So I don't think that necessarily means he'll start. Tatafu will start. Tatafu's played a lot of minutes in this 10, sometimes at loose head prop, but it is 10. So I think Taf will go straight into the hooker spot. What they do with the front row there, I don't know. They've got signed Benny Dowley as well. I think he and Pet Cowan will share that loose head position with probably Tetra Faulkner at tight head.
Oh yeah, nice one. And at halfback, they ended the season with Ian Pryor, but I think that might have been only because Ryan. Now is it Lovrens or Lowrens or
Lowrens? Yeah,
Lowrens?
Yeah, and yeah. So those two most definitely. I think Lowrens might just have it over Pryor. I think they'll swap them around. But the other one to watch is also Michael Ruru, who's in the squad. He's a bit of a sizable player. He's got a really good pass on him. I think he's a very good player as well. But I think Lowrens will be the safe bet to start for them at the moment.
Yeah, he looked okay. Ian Pryor doesn't really offer you much if he's not goal kicking, whereas I think Lowrens does. He's got a bit of a running game, got a bit to him.
Yep, exactly.
What's the back row makeup going to be?
Mate, as per usual for the Force, we're not too sure. So Matt Hodgson, who's, the everywhere man, he's actually done a bit of a hammy at the 10s. I haven't heard a report as to how far he's out yet, sorry. So, I'm probably failed my duties already with that one, but it's a recent injury, so we'll see, pretty quickly. Benny McCalman will start at 8.
Yep.
It's an interesting one. I think they were looking for young Ross Hallett-Petty, who's Dane's brother, to start at 6, but they've had a few injuries at lock. Ben Matuau's been injured. So I think Ross will actually have to start at lock with Adam Coleman, which probably opens up that back row position. Angus Cottrell's also injured, so that's a loss for them. So the Staife one is Brian Stander, who's had a very good NRC and has been around the system for a little while. I'll throw you a roughie, a guy called Issa Naisarani, sorry. Okay. So he was a standout for Brisbane City in the NRC last year. Thus, Force assigned him for 2 years. He's big Fijian, still only young, but he's got a massive work rate, loves a tackle, is a strong, one of those guys who makes good meters pretty consistently. And now he hasn't obviously been tried at Super Rugby. It's a step up. He looked very good in the 10s, really good work rate. But
6 or 8?
He's probably more an 8, but in fact, he played a bit of both, 8 and 6 for Brisbane City last year. Even filled in at lock, but I think he could be a chance for 6 in this team. And
the Force in general, better than the Brumbies, about the same as the Brumbies, or is that really harsh on the Brumbies?
It's harsh on the Brumbies because Brumbies still have a system in place. They're an established team. They've got this culture that wins, and they've still got some super players there in Kurandrani and Arnold and Alalatoa and stuff like that. Benny Alexander. But I think I said a few years with the Force. I have hope for them. I think they should do well. They've got their young coach Dave Wessels, who's younger than some of the players. Has been undertaking a different coaching program with them this year. He's tried to mix things up a bit and start anew. So, look, they've recruited well. I have hope for them. As per usual, it's depth for them. They lose a few key players and there's not much underneath. So
that's what I was going to say. I think they probably go as far as John O'Lance goes.
Yeah, exactly. Very good point. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's bounce across to the other side of the country, the Rebels. Similar kind of, well, maybe not actually. Let's get your view on that. Fly half and goal kicker for the Rebels. Put a gun to your head.
Yeah, mate. I think they'll start Debrasini again. I know they've got young Bashop, Garden Bashop there. I don't know much about them. I've seen some pre-season images of him. He looks like he could potentially play in the front row if needed.
There's a bit about that to him, actually. Absolutely. There is.
But, mate, who are we to question the development path of New Zealand rugby players, mate?
Absolutely.
But yeah, look, I think Debrasini, he's still a wonderful player. In the NRC last year, they did toy with Benny Meehan at 10 and Debrasini played a few games at fullback to try and free him up a little bit, and Meehan actually did pretty decently well at 10. But I'd be surprised if Debrasini wasn't at 10. I guess the only other option might be Reece Hodge, who's played a little bit at 10, but I think they like him a bit further out.
Yeah, I just wondered if Tony McGahn might do something a little bit. He might kind of rip up the playbook and said, look, I made a bit of a mistake putting Nick Serzacker in as the captain last year because I actually wanted Ben Meehan, and as it turned out, 2 games in.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing with Garden Bishop. Don't know.
Yeah, we'll see. The Sturzacker thing's interesting. He was named captain of the 10s team again. He's obviously very well respected and regarded. But again, Meehan seems to be producing, some pretty decent form. Yeah,
he is. He's the player that I would plump for anyway. I don't think I would draft Nick Serzacker, but at least Ben Meehan's got some value. He seems to be on the end of those kind of inside balls running up the fat man's track under the post. He's got a bit of pace to him as well. Yep,
indeed. No, he's a very decent player, and he kicks a few goals every now and again too.
And what's the kind of general view? Because I've heard reports of Serzacker being chased in Europe from a number of clubs about going over there. Does that have any kind of effect on coaches' mindsets in Australia? Are they kind of cut their nose off to spite their face, or are these guys? Well, he's signed for this year, so he's playing for the Rebels. We'll give him 100%.
Yeah, I think McGahn will be like that. I think he'll give us all this year. He'll select him if he thinks he's the best player. It's interesting you say that, and Robbie Horn's going overseas next year, so that swayed some people to thinking, oh, well, maybe he won't be used as 12 for the Tars, and they'll start bringing in someone else, and Horn could go do his time on the wing. I'm not convinced coaches talk like that. They're paid to win tournaments and they'll pick the best team they can. So I think Sturzacker, I don't think that'll have an impact on Sturzacker's selection. I think it'll be form and form only.
Is he still the captain there?
Mate, I haven't heard officially this year. I think I would be surprised if it was Sean McMahon in fact, but McMahon's going to be missing a month or so at least of footy, so Sturzacker's probably the next man in.
And it is a month. That was the latest I had on
I think that's right, mate. I think it was sort of 6 weeks, a couple of weeks ago. So he'll be sort of a month into the tournament around then.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned it a couple of podcasts ago. We still think he's probably in that kind of next tier down behind Artie and Jacko Creel, but in with the likes of Issa and that kind of level. But it just puts him at the bottom of that tier. Coming back. Mind you, Issa's got a lot of question marks about him as well, but that's for another podcast. I tell you what the Rebels have got. They've got wingers.
Yeah, they do.
They bought like 2 more. They bought that Kadama, I think that's how they pronounce it as well.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. So Korobetti, Naivalu, English, Kadama, Placid, Shipperley and Maddox.
Yeah, so part of me thinks that Naivalu will end up at 13.
You think?
So I've got a feeling, and I know they love Mitch Inman down there, but I've got a feeling that Reece Hodge and Naivalu will be the centres.
That'd be exciting.
Yeah, it is. So that frees up. Korobati will definitely be one wing. And who gets the other one? Tommy English has been a great servant and was excellent in the NRC. Dom Shipperley is fantastic. Missed a fair bit of footy. However, the other thing is who plays fullback. Jonah Placid was the man that everyone thought would fill that position. He's a young guy. Still played one of the best schoolboy rugby test matches performances I've ever seen, but he hasn't really produced at the top. Tommy English again can play fullback and was fantastic for the Melbourne Rising in the NRC last year. I'd be edging. He might be a fullback option for them with Shipperley on that wing.
Yeah, it's funny because you're not the first person, and I think the exact same thing when it comes to Tom English. He's a great servant and he sends there, but you look at his numbers and you watch him also in the eye test. He's a really, really good player. By saying that he's a servant, it almost sounds like he's just there that doesn't get injured. He's just a good kind of club man, but he's so much more than that. He's really impressive.
He is, and he's another of those try scorers. He pops up the right spot to receive those balls.
Absolutely. And I was trying to ask, when you mentioned about Shipperley, it's like he's a rich man's Robbie Coleman, I reckon. Shipperley. Yeah. He just does everything just that little bit better than Robbie Coleman, but he's a similar type player.
Yeah, you're exactly right, mate. It's pretty fair.
So if McMahon's going to be out, are they just going to toss around?
I think Colby Fainga. Yeah, Geordie Reid, Colby Fainga will start. So the other thing, they've lost a few locks. So Alex Toulis is out, Sam Jeffries is out for a little while. So it looks like Lepeti Tamani, who I think many people wanted to sort of settle into that number 8 role, so he gets used to playing there for the Wallabies, might have to start at lock.
Oh, okay.
so that opens up. There's actually a couple of back row spots there. So obviously, Amanaki, the Murphy, the Japanese international.
He looked really good in the tens.
Yeah. So he's a wonderful player. He was great at the World Cup. So he'll start 6 or 8, I guess. And then you've got the likes of Colby and Geordie Reid sort of filling in there as well. So it'll be interesting. I guess those guys will be the way they go. Just trying to have a quick squeeze at their list. I think they're probably the 2 best options for them there.
What about the front row? That's always been notoriously one of their, weaker kind of areas that they need to work on their squad. Thoughts on this year?
Well, James Hansen will go hooker, and I think Toby Smith will go loose head. So there you got 2 Wallaby squad members at least. Mm-hmm. It just comes down to that tight head spot, which I think Laurie Weeks will probably start at 3 for them, and it's probably his position to lose. So there's really youth underneath him. There's a Tyrell Lomax, who's the son of the former Canberra Raiders, John Lomax. He's a very big boy, so he's signed from the Brumbies. But he might get a few gigs off the bench, but I think Weeks, Hansen and Smith will be your starting 3 there.
Does Lomax have the same sweet perm that his dad did?
He's not too far off, mate. He's not too far off.
Brilliant. Love it. Can't wait for it.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds interesting. And Rebels versus Force versus Brumbies?
Look, I think, mate, I think Rebels should be. I'm just concerned that those injuries in the pre-season have really blown them around a little bit. They were looking at a pretty handy squad there. Even Sam Jeffries, who got injured, has been playing really well. So I think Rebels should be ahead of all those guys. But it's a pretty tight competition.
Yeah, not for anything that's for value for fantasy or draft managers, but Sean McMahon should be in every Wallabies team, and every time I see him not there, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I think there's a few Wallaby fans who think the same, particularly when there's names like Dean Mum in the squad.
Yeah, well, at least they keep those Green and Gold Rugby servers plugged in.
Exactly.
Right, mate. We've been going for about 35 minutes now.
We all done? We all done now?
You've been chomping at the bit. Let's get on to it. The Reds. I've got written down here a quote. This is your year, is it?
Oh, mate, I hate hearing those sorts of quotes. It should be. I mean, at least from an Aussie conference perspective, I won't get anything too confident over that. I think we should be backing ourselves to win the conference and see how it goes from there. The depth we've got some year in some positions, it's sort of mind blowing. It's just we've got to put it on the table. I guess if there's any concern, it's a very youthful coaching team, and we'll see how they get the best out of these very, very good players.
So Quade Cooper, obviously, good recruiting. A little, not necessarily young dudes, but there's enough young players coming through from Queensland and Brisbane City as well from the NRC that they didn't really need to go and sit and buy young guys. I think they just needed a bit of a steer, and they needed to fix that 10 position. And I think it worked out for Quade quite well as well. I don't think he was particularly enjoying his stint overseas, and I think he was looking over this side, and I think the timing worked quite well. But what do you expect from Quade this year? Back to his glory days?
Look, it's funny. I mean, Quade does stuff has done stuff on a footy field that I've never seen anyone do, and he is one of my favourite players when on song. I don't think we'll see the heights of 211. We just need his maturity. We need his ability to get the best out of the players outside him. He's actually, he may not come across it. I don't know how the Kiwi fans see this, but he's actually really smart. He loves a game plan. He's one of the most studious players in the team. Loves working with the coaches on the upcoming game plans and all that sort of stuff. And I know Ewan McKenzie said he was the best player he ever coached in terms of implementing a game plan. So, he's got the skills, but he's also a smart player, that might cause a few people to laugh, but he is. And I hope this year he gets the chance to show it as a true leader, because I maintain, when playing his best, he's the best 10 in Australia.
And as if to illustrate your point on how smart Quade Cooper actually is, did you see the person he selected to fight? Goodness gracious.
Right. Exactly right.
Yeah, that's the top 6 inches that he used to manage to pick that guy out of a lineup.
Yep.
If you haven't seen that, go and type it in. Quade Cooper charity boxing match. Actually, it wasn't charity, was it? It was just a boxing match.
No, it wasn't. I think that guy needs charity now, but...
It's a bit like that. Who's going to play outside him at 12 then? Because they got Henry Tafu last year, and he was doing a bit of goal kicking every now and again.
Yeah, so he's back in the squad. This is an interesting one. So there's a couple of ways they'll go here. They might bring Samu in one and play him 12 and bring a big guy like Campbell Magnay at 13 or Chris Fawaya-Sortier, although Fawaya-Sortier's out for a few matches. I suspect they'll go with Duncan Paoua, the young guy who played a few games at 10 towards the end of last year. Yep. But he's a good little 12, good little playmaker, very solid in defence. And I get the impression they'll look for an extra bit of playmaking ability out of that team. And they need that, particularly when Quaid likes to, drop back every now and again. They'll just need someone in close who can keep the play moving, and Duncan's definitely that man.
Yeah, again, similar to the Sean McMahon conversation, I'm always pretty happy when I see Karevi at 12.
Yeah.
It's much better. He's a 13, and he just is. He's a barnstorming 13.
Well, what he does that I don't think many people give him the credit for, and what I always look for in a 13 is someone who combines with his wingers. And Karevi, he's had this great combinations with Chris Kurandrani's great combinations with Edo Nabuli at sort of NRC and state level. It's because he's a very good outside centre who makes space for his wingers. So yeah, I agree. He's a 13 through and through for mine.
And I think you can allow yourself to have that kind of Quaid player in 10 and 12 if you've got Karevi outside you. I assume, Quaid will probably drop back at defensive positions and potentially Hunt, Carmichael. Is he going to be the 15? Probably
he
12
will.
Or 10 or something like that?
Well, mate, Hunt will definitely be, I'd say he'll start at 15. And he has been exceptional so far this year. He's had a full off season. He's trained low profile, mate. Nothing happening in the off season. He's grown his hair. He's grown his beard. So he's almost unrecognisable. But he's looked very clever in his teens. He's getting in and playmaking. So I thought for a minute about him playing 12, but I think they'll stick with him at 15. But he'll see plenty of ball.
He'll line up. I was trying to refer to maybe at defensive positions, right? Because Quaid will get hidden at some point, or maybe he'll go onto a wing or something like that.
No, you're right. He'll drop back, and don't call it hidden, mate. Call it strategy. He drops back for the.
Pardon me. What did I say?
He drops back for the counter attack, mate. That's what he's doing. He's not hiding in defence. He's ready to counter attack.
That is sunny side up. I like your thinking, Rich. It's pretty good. I too agree. I've written down, I didn't have it on the run sheet originally, but Carmichael Hunt has looked very good in the 10s that I've seen it. And despite looking homeless, he does actually look very, very sprightly. Like, he looks impressive, and he wants the ball in his hands. And if he can continue that way, then, if you're playing outside Quaid and Karevi, I think that's good.
I think it's very exciting, yep.
Any reason to suggest Karevi isn't going to be one of the best players in Super Rugby, full stop?
No, mate, it's ridiculous. And we've seen how good he is in the last couple of years, and I've been fortunate to watch him since it comes with the club system and all that sort of stuff. And I just think we've seen anyone who's seen the 10s tournament, again, he's just unstoppable almost. So, I think it'll be all systems going. And like you say, his combination with Quaid will be really important. Quaid was his best when he had Digby running outside him, so when the Quaid magic wouldn't work, you'd just give it a Digby, and Digby would just pump those legs and make a few metres and keep the ball. That's what we'll use Karevi for as well. So Quaid will be looking to put him through gaps, but if anything goes wrong, it'll be just give it to Karevi, and Karevi, you take it forward and make some metres for us.
Yeah, that's right. I think that he's a superstar, and I think if you're looking at a strategy for Fantasy Rugby draft, been in a few drafts so far, there are a lot of outside backs, and I know everyone's pretty keen to get your hands on the Milner Scudders and Israel Folau's, but I think there's a whole bunch of outside backs that if I had my first pick and it was anything from kind of 3 up, I'd probably go Karevi.
Yep.
Now after I've seen how fit he looks and how good he looks in that 10s as well.
Yep,
really,
indeed.
really impressive. And who's going to go on the wing? You mentioned Kurandrani, you mentioned Chris F. Satir, Campbell Magnay. Is his name Campbell Magnay, or is it Big Campbell Magnay?
Big Campbell Magnay, or the Mango, as we call him over here.
That's good.
Look, Edo Nabuli, they will get one wing position. Surprised me with his lack of speed this time. He doesn't back himself too often. Did in one try today, but he likes to come back inside. I think the other one's interesting. I would personally pick young Isaiah Parisi, who is a 20-year-old who I think is going to be a superstar. And I think he'll get a bit of game time, but I think they're going to manage his game time. He's had a few injuries over the years, and I think he's they'll just watch him. He's a young Ben Chun for mine. He's a bloody strong runner, a young Ben Chun. So super fast, very physical, and runs a nice angle. But one to keep your eye on. But look, so you're right. Magnay's an option. Kuridrani's an option. I don't think they'll go Kuridrani. The other one is Lachlan Maranta. So he's a guy they've signed for the Broncos. He played junior rugby, played a bit of Queensland schoolboys. I think definitely played schoolboy rugby at a decent level. Has been at the Broncos for a few years and has come back. So apparently he's trained the house down. He's a real finisher. Knows where the try line is. Knows how to get across it. So I'd suggest he will probably start on the other wing for them.
Okay, yeah, that's a good shout. So a couple of players, actually I'll get into Higgers in a little bit, but having a look at your Twitter profile, it probably says all you need to know. George Smith in a Reds jersey. I think you're trolling a few other states there. I love it.
I am, mate.
What do you expect from George Smith?
Mate, I don't know. I still can't believe he's coming, to be honest. It just seems so strange. And from all reports, he was still playing so damn well in Japan. And, we know he got a few awards last year in the UK, but I think he picked up a few in Japan as well. And his team played in the final. He was alongside Hendrik Chewy and actually up against David Pocock, and I think he got the points in that game. So, mate, I'm pretty damn excited, to be honest. Yeah. So, I can only imagine he won't play every game, but it's a fair gap between him and our next number 7, who's a young guy called Michael Gunn, who's played a few games and he's a solid hard worker, but he's no George Smith. So I think we'll try and get as much out of him as we can.
Wasn't Michael Gunn a fairly promising kid? Wasn't he kind of looked at quite fondly by Queensland folk?
He was, and I think he still is, and he's obviously in the squad. But I don't know. I think he's still got a bit to develop. We've got a bit of a breeding ground as young sevens, and there's a few underneath him that'll come through as well. So he'll have to work hard. But part of the whole selection of George Smith is to be that player mentor to Gunn in particular, and he'll spend as much time, sort of hopefully to coach Gunn this year as he will sort of be on the field of play.
So when the Brumbies were playing, and Stephen Moore and Pocock were there was a lot of tries scored by Pocock on that driving maul because of Stephen Moore, and then it switched around when you couldn't swim up the maul, and then Moore had to join last. So that's why we rated the Reds front row a lot higher than we ordinarily would have because of Moore's influence in getting those tries. Is that a sound theory?
Yeah, mate, I think you're bang on, and you add to that the fact that Nick Stiles, the Reds heads coach, doesn't mind a driving maul as well from the line out. So the Reds have been doing that a little bit as well, and I think they'll rely on that big time. So expect to see a bit of that.
Do you want to talk about Scott Higginbottom, or should we just say let's see how he gets on at the start of the year? Yeah,
mate. I mean, there's not much. It was a shame. It was a great signing. There's obviously been the police incident. We don't know where it stands. We've got no idea how long, if he'll even play this year, mate. It's a bit up in the air at the moment. I think he's not meant to be training at the moment. They've got a trial match Tuesday. He won't play in that, so it'll be interesting to see. But I guess if there's one position we've got a fair bit of depth in, it is the back row. So it's a shame for Higgers, but it's the Reds thankfully have got some players who can do the job around him.
And do you think that the Tongan Thor is going to actually get game time, or is he going to be just an impact player off the bench?
I think he'll be off the bench. I had hopes that by the end of the year he might force his way in the team, but I must admit I've been underwhelmed by him at the 10s. He's a very raw player. He has some big impacts, but he doesn't have the finesse that I think needed to start just yet. I think he'll be good off the bench every now and again, but I don't think he'll start yet. I think Sam Talakai will start at tight head prop, and Talakai was part of a leadership team announced earlier this week. So I think Tupou will be on the bench, but unless there's an injury, I don't think he'll start.
I think raw is a polite way of putting it. You're very kind, Reg. You're being very nice. There was a couple of brain melts in that team. Yeah,
I've got to live in the same city as him, so I just got to be careful for what I say.
Great show. Anything more from the Reds?
Mate, look, I just want to, it's the Reds. I could go through every play individually if you wanted. But a couple of roughies, and particularly with Higgins being potentially out, there's a guy called Caleb Timu, who's another schoolboy sensation, who went and played for the Broncos, and came back sort of mid last year, and in his first club match just tore, he's playing for Sunnybank and tore Easts apart, was, big long runs, big hits, and looked fantastic. Unfortunately did his knee, I think, that same game, so he's back playing, and it could be one of those barnstorming number 8s we've been looking for. And then the other one is the second row, we've got great depth there, and obviously Simmons and Douglas, the Wallaby locks, and Cade and Neville thereabout. But there's a young guy, Luke Tui, who I think's going to be a superstar. He's a 2-metre giant, a big physical guy, knows how to use his body. He's only been playing the game, I think, 4 or 5 years. But he's a real athlete in the lock. So I think he'll get some game time towards the end of the year. But just something to keep an eye on if you're looking for someone to fill out the squad.
Great shouts. I like how the Reds are looking. So good luck to you this season, mate.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, we'll run out a little bit of time here. I selfishly want to go and watch the Crusaders play in about 4 minutes. So we'll sign off there. But you can follow us on Twitter at Fantasy REG Draft. It's Fantasy REG Draft, or drop us a note at support@fantasyrugbydraft.com. Reg, you're on Rugby Reg at Rugby Reg, is it?
That's correct, mate.
Good man. And the Hall of Fame group as well is a good view if you want to go and look for leagues that are active. There's leagues that are looking for managers that want to be active. They're doing mock drafts, and there's a whole lot of information being put up there that people are speculating and putting injuries as well. So there's been a few overnight. Zas broken leg potentially. De Jong reported MCL as well. So just a couple of things that are going on the Facebook Hall of Fame group. Get in that. I just wanted to quickly say thanks, mate. Really, really appreciate your time. I know it's been a busy day for you with the 10, so appreciate it again, and good luck this season.
My pleasure, mate. Looking forward to it.
That's pretty much all it is for it. Thanks for downloading and listening. I'm Bruce Wilkinson, LT Repeater.
What a bust here by Christian Cullen. Plenty of support, and what a dummy!